You're listening to Permission to Shine, the podcast. Stories of overcoming obstacles and finding self-empowerment with Sherisse Bisram, Inner Power Activation Leader. The Oxford Dictionary describes permission as the action of officially allowing someone to do a particular thing, consent, authorization. What if you were that someone and you gave yourself the permission to be everything you wanted to be and more? No more playing small and accepting less than. You are worthy of the life of your dreams, regardless of what it is that you've been through. And honestly, it's exactly what you've been through that has shaped you into the version of yourself that you are now. Like a diamond, you've endured so much, but instead of breaking, you have become stronger and brighter. And if that's not a reason to shine, then I don't know what is. And if nature can do it, then why the hell can't you? You are brave, you are strong, you are powerful, and you are enough. Hear my call and give yourself the permission to shine, because you don't realise how many people are inspired by your light. Hi everyone, we are back with another incredible guest. Now, me and Aisha can talk forever. We've literally just jumped on and we've been chatting away. And I was like, oh girl, we best record because we'll be here all day. So I am really excited to introduce Aisha.
Hello, everyone. Do you know what? First of all, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, totally mirror what you just said. I could talk to you for days. So hopefully we'll stay on track for today. But I guess I should tell your audience a little bit about me. So
Yeah, please.
My name is Aisha Gordon Hiles. I am an accredited counsellor. I'm also an author, a life coach, and a consultant, and a clinical supervisor for therapists, if that wasn't enough in one mouthful.
Well, that's a bit like Sherisse Bisram, Inner Power Activation Leader and Intuitive Healer, Aisha. That's probably why we've connected, because we just like a lot of words. We just add them all in.
Oh my gosh,
but
absolutely.
Please do kind of explain to us like your story into becoming this career path, I think, and then obviously all the bits in between we will elaborate on it as we go forth.
Absolutely. Thank you. Sorry I cut you there. Right, so take you back to a 6-year-old little girl. I think unfortunately that's my past self saying that, because my current self is very much really grateful for everything that I've been through. But by that age, I had been thrown a lot of stuff, a lot of dirt in life. And I remember just really, really struggling emotionally. Nobody really teaches you how to regulate yourself, how to contain your emotions, what to do with them. And I had a lot of anger growing up. I am the first born, technically. We won't go into that. But I had a lot of caring responsibilities at a young age, and I struggled, not just with the caring, but just other things that happened. And so I remember sitting down and thinking, why is this happening? What is it about me? Why this is happening? And are there other people out there that might also feel the same? And that really is the crux of where this started. It started with, I don't want other people to have to struggle like I have. And so I guess fast forward a little bit, as I mentioned, I was a young carer. I used to go to this young carers project in my local area, and they would give us sort of respite from those caring responsibilities. But every year they would hold a festival for all of the young carers up and down the nation. And it was great. We'd go camping, and yeah, it was really, really nice. And one of the years I fell upon a tent that had an agony aunt competition in it. And I kid you not, I sat there for the duration of the festival, just answering all of these problems that people had and writing different letters. And I think that was really kind of the biggest catalyst for me. It was like, okay, there's something here. So I was probably about 11 at that time. And then fast forward a little bit more, I went to college and I did psychology, sociology, health and social care, and critical thinking. And then I went on to university to my first degree in psychology with counselling. And I think it was at that point that I knew, okay, counsellor, that's it. I did dabble with the idea of being a psychologist, but didn't like the length of the trajectory of the training. And counsellor just, it fit, it was like the last piece of the jigsaw puzzle. So I guess that was my journey. After that, I did my master's in therapeutic counselling. and then was a qualified practitioner. I've done some other training since then, in countless amounts of things, specialising in working with children and young people, but also in trauma, and different types of therapy. And then, in case I didn't like studying enough, I've then more recently done my clinical supervision training. So a clinical supervisor is somebody who looks after, I guess, therapists in their practice, ensuring that they're working in the best way possible with their clients.
Yeah, I love all of that. And you know what I loved more than anything was the agony art story. When you told me that, my whole body got tingles, and I was like, that is just you, like, to a T, you know, like that natural, just in that space of just, you know, sharing your wisdom. And I think that's, you know, I guess something that we've both shared a similarity to, that just natural ability to have enough, I guess, lived experience at a young age to be able to offer that advice, but equally knowing that it comes from deeper within you, right? That's your soul. That's your soul's transition here on this earth, is to give that guidance there, for sure. And I think that's really wonderful, because I said to you before we recorded, and my listeners know from my listening to me, that, you know, talk therapy isn't my favorite way of people finding help and solutions, but you know, listening to you and the way you do things is absolutely 100% what I would be recommending people to connect with. And I think, you know, anyone listening that, you know, feels like counseling is something they need, please do follow up with you after this episode, because, you know, you're in so much integrity with everything that you are. I think it's really, really powerful, and real. And I think that's, you know, something that I've always been, you know, starting the podcast, I only ever want people to be on here that are in integrity with what they do and who they are, because otherwise it's just, yeah, we don't care about that. Do you know what I mean? We want to know the struggles that came in between. And I guess that is my next question. Like, what was the process in between all of that studying? Were you still a carer in the process of studying? Like, how did you juggle all of that?
God, you're taking me back, because was I still a carer? Yes, and I became a carer again. It's a really interesting thing. Somebody once said to me, life leads the willing and drags the unwilling. And I have been very fortunate that I have listened to my calling from the get-go. So actually, I found all of this quite easy, and I'll go into a little bit in a second about the different things I was juggling. But I think I found it easy because I've listened and I haven't resisted. I've gone with where I knew I was supposed to go. And so, yes, I was still a carer by that time, going to university. And unfortunately, in university, my partner at the time had a car crash and was paralysed. And so I became a carer for him as well. And just going back to your question about how did I juggle it, it was hard. It was really hard, because I was also working multiple jobs. I mean, when I was doing my first degree, I was working 6 jobs alongside my degree. But I think I've always had this fire to do more, and I enjoy being booked and busy. Ultimately, it's high functioning anxiety, but I use it in a really positive way, in a way that does benefit me to get what I want done in life. And so I think a massive part has been leaning into that in a positive way and not letting it hold me back, but allowing it to fuel me. There's something called eustress, which is ultimately stress that can be used in a positive function to allow you to complete the goals that you want to achieve. So I think it's a combination of listening and a combination of using my high functioning anxiety in a positive way.
Yeah, I mean, you're just speaking my song there, girl. Like, I'm like, yeah, same's here. And I actually thought that doing 4 jobs a day was a lot, but 6 jobs, I think you top trump me on that one. So yeah, but I completely resonate with that high function anxiety. And I think, I mean, I often talk about how I had IBS and just didn't know that it was related to that. And a lot of my friends would talk about their anxiety because it appeared differently. And then one day it clicked with all the research I was doing that actually I have high functioning anxiety, and that's why I have IBS, because of the cortisol level hasn't ever gone down, you know. So
Yep.
it is just funny, isn't it, all of these things. But I love what you said there about you know, the positive side to that is obviously what gives us the drive. And I guess deeper question on that is obviously, you know, evidently, and you probably feel this yourself, like it seems like you live a lot in your masculine energy. So how have you found that feminine space?
You stole it out of my mouth. Because as I finished and you were talking, I was thinking, I also didn't mention that that's very much in my masculine energy. And so now I've lost your question. It was, how have I found being in that space?
And coming out of it into the feminine, or finding the balance in between.
Yeah. An interesting journey. I remember actually my therapist saying to me, how would it feel to just put your masculine energy down? Just, you know, you can look at it, you can see it there, but how would it feel to just leave it there sort of dormant? And I was like, oh, but this is the thing that has fueled me. This is the thing that has got me where I needed to be. How do I not use that? And what does that look like? But there's a quote that's coming up for me that is, you can only take your clients as far as you're willing to go yourself. And so I knew that I needed to go on this journey, and I needed to sit that masculine energy down and have a look at it. I will say that the season that I was in at the time made it a lot more easier. I was transitioning into motherhood, and so that in itself brings a lot of feminine energy. And I pulled on that to help me be able to drop that masculine energy. Now, when I say drop, it's not gone, but it's actually, for me, more of a kind of pragmatic process of going, okay, where is this helpful and where is it not helpful? And how do I know for myself when I'm sitting in it? My body, I do a lot of somatics work, and so paying attention to my sensory motor sensations within my body is really important. So I know when I'm in my masculine energy now, because I've taken that time to sit down and reflect to see what it looks like. My shoulders will be up in my ears, right? My jaw is clenched. I'm walking like as if my shoulders are going first before my feet, right? And so for me, it's about constantly paying attention to my body and going, what energy are you encompassing in this moment? And making that choice to switch, especially when I've accidentally gone into the masculine and I don't need to. But to go back to your question, it was a very rocky road, because I spent 30 odd years in masculine energy, essentially. Okay, we can discount some of the, you know, core years, maybe 1 to 5. But as soon as life started hitting me with stuff, I found my masculine energy and I stayed there. Doesn't help that I was also raised by 2 generations of masculine energy women. So it's been a battle. And actually mentioning sort of my 2 generations of masculine energy women, it's also been difficult because of the changes then in my relationships, because I've been relating masculine to masculine in my family. When I now go into feminine, I've noticed people are sort of like, well, what's going on? What do you mean you're not going to do that? What do you mean you're asking for help? What do you mean you're trying to sort of offload some of your stuff here? So it's been challenging because it has that ripple effect on so many different aspects of my life. But my therapy training, honestly, is I don't even have a word for it, but it's that grounding point for me, because it allows me to tap into all of the techniques and tools that I've used to go, okay, you know what, ground yourself in this moment, reflect. Also, I dip and dabble in a lot of astrology now and again when I need it, and so pulling on that as well and going, okay, what's going on in my cards, going for readings and seeing for myself what direction I need. So I guess what I'm actually saying there is help. I haven't done this on my own. I haven't gone into this feminine energy on my own. I've used the support that I've felt necessary.
Oh, I love that answer. And I feel like we are both two peas in a pod. I think there's so many synchronicities in our stories, which is just beautiful. And I think, as I said, it's so wonderful to talk to someone in this space that, you know, is an accredited counselor, is doing the things, but is doing the work, you know, and radically self-aware and energetically aware. I think that's just so important. Like, I can't stress that enough, because that is my biggest bugbear in the industry, where we could use numbers and letters after our name and just discern that we're not, you know, we don't actually have to do it ourselves because we've just got the qualification. It's no, we actually have to be it. And I love the saying that you said, that you can only take your clients as far as you've gone. Absolutely that. And I think that's how I've ended up in this work, is because, like you, I've had to heal myself through this process, and I'm continuing to heal myself. And just even you know, that part that you said there about asking for help, I completely resonate with that. There is no way that I would have made it fully into my feminine without tapping into the help, because I healed myself, my trauma, heavy trauma, on my own to a certain extent. And then I got to a point where I couldn't reach the rest. And I was like, right, okay, there needs to be some things here where we connect with other people. And that is the art of femininity, right? Is the asking for help, being able to surrender, and taking your hands off the wheel for a moment. And I think you know, it's funny when you mentioned about the somatics, because I'm exactly the same. Like, I noticed myself in a really beautiful way go into my masculine when I didn't need to the other day, and I was like, girl, hold on a minute. Like, I was just getting a bit of, you know, I started to build a little bit of anxiety around something. I was like, oh my gosh, should I do that? Should I take that step or should I not? And I was like really tethering around it, and I was like, you know what, like, my thing is all about feel the fear and do it anyway, right? Sometimes, but then I think what it was actually honoring the surrender was actually more of a scary thing for me to do than actually taking the step. And I was like, that there was me choosing femininity. And I was like, yes, that is what it looks like different on all of us, right? But I think that space there, that space that you said, where you can observe your masculine, you can tap into it when you feel like you need to, that is essentially what, you know, Eckhart Tolle talks about, the seat of the soul. And then you've got, like, I'm rereading Michael Singer's Untethered Soul as well again, because that's one of my favorite books. And it's just that reminder that, you know, we are the awareness of our soul. We're not necessarily, sorry, not the awareness of our soul, awareness of ourself, you know, like, we're the soul that sits in the middle. And I think that, you know, when we can understand that and tap into all the tools we have access to, that's what we gain that true empowerment, isn't it? You know, that's that real beautiful space. But I guess on all of this right now, when in your life was that real moment where you really truly gave yourself the permission to shine?
What a juicy question. The first thing that comes to my head is more so, how many times have I given myself the permission to shine? Because I think it has been peaks and troughs in every different season that I've been in. I would say my most recent season has been becoming a mother, and that permission to shine has outdone every other permission that has come before. I think biologically, hormonally, I've changed. And I guess that love that I have as a Cancerian, I've got a massive amount of love and mothering to give, and it's in the right place now. And so that allows me to kind of strip back all the ego defense mechanisms. It allows me to strip back all the masks and just be me, because I have to for my son. Because also I have to think about what example am I setting for him going forward, and any future children I may or may not have. So I think becoming a mother has been, at the moment, the cherry on the top of, like, the all shined moments, if that's even a sentence. But I think, just to go back to what I said originally, I can notice different stages in my life where I had to give myself that permission, you know, breakups, romantic breakups, friendship breakdowns, even in the process of unlearning everything that I had been conditioned to believe growing up about the world. And that's no disrespect or kind of trash on my family at all, because you learn from your primary caregivers, but ultimately they teach you from a space of their insecurities or what maybe they didn't get from their parents. And so I've got some really positive things out of that and some beautiful focuses. But equally, there were also some things that were missing and maybe not focused on so much that would have been really helpful. And I did a video for an organisation on maternal mental health, and I was saying, when I knew I was pregnant, I had this huge desire to make sure that I was the best possible version of myself that I could be, so that I could pass that on to my son and he could then outshine me. But I think, yeah, I mean, I'm probably just going to go over and say the same thing again. It happens in waves for sure.
Yeah, and I love that so much, because I deeply resonate with what you say in terms of like what's been passed down through your lineage. And I think, going back to my story and looking at my lineage, that the same trauma has been repeated time and time again. So it is exactly what you said, when we can look at our family as respecting them for doing the best they could do, but understand that we can do better. That's the real beauty, isn't it? Is that's creating a new legacy for yourself and for your son and for his legacy to carry on. It's such a beautiful space. And I think, especially as strong, independent women, to be blessed with a son, to be able to change the cycle. I mean, that's such a beautiful space for you to be in. And I can only imagine how, every day is just fulfilling for you in that space. And maybe you're learning more in that as well, and I'm sure you'll continue to navigate in this space as a mum of a young boy.
Absolutely. I did a couple of reels a little while ago on how my son is teaching me more about anxiety than I've learned on my degrees. And by watching him and seeing something that I'm really interested in at the moment, is impulse control. Because babies have impulses. They just start clapping for no reason or laughing for no reason. And as adults, we don't do that.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching it and I'm observing it and I'm thinking, that's interesting. At what point is he potentially going to stop doing that? And what happened? And why has he stopped doing that? And why was he doing it in the first place? He's almost like my new university in terms of just learning about life and learning how we grow and develop. But also he's teaching me so much about myself, because I'm having to look at the ways that I'm responding to him. For example, it's not easy I'm now potentially around 2 years of sleep deprivation at the point of he's now started sleeping through the night, but that was only more recently. And so all throughout my pregnancy, sleep was just a myth, and up until he was 1, sleep was also a myth. And so when you're sleep deprived and you're hungry and your hormones are up and down, and not to mention then what's going on astrologically in the world, it's really difficult to maintain that kind of calm, gentle parenting that everybody is talking about. And people are really hard on themselves for that. But I think slowness is a massive key in that, because it allows you to observe and make choices and how you're going to respond.
Yeah.
And again, just thinking about, I guess, your original question on giving myself permission to shine, particularly in motherhood, there was something about allowing myself to just be the mother that I am. And rather than coming in with my preconceptions, and don't get me wrong, I had them, but I had to let them go, because ultimately I had to be the mother that I could be on the day that it was. And then the next day, the mother that I could be on that day, and just reflect and learn and take time to observe who I am and who I'm becoming, and make choices about who I want to be. How do I show up as that future version of myself? What baby steps can I take that are going to mean that I'm moving towards that person if I'm not that person already?
Yeah, absolutely that. And I resonate with that so much, because I think almost sometimes the children dictate like they're almost like the parents are following the children, aren't they? And their lead, when actually, that level of patience, that's what turns the dial. It's not adhering to your young one, getting upset and causing a tantrum. It's sitting with it. And actually the best parenting that I watch, I've got one of my best friends, she is just so in her feminine. She's also a Cancer, funny enough, and she's just so in her feminine energy in the space. And she's actually raised the most polite little girl that you could ever dream of. And like we said, there's no right or wrong in parenting, but I think because she's always had such a calm nature. She takes her hands off the wheel, she allows her to do what she needs to do, and then she comes back, she grounds her back in. I think that leading, and it's that thing, isn't it, that we know about in the understanding of psychology of people. It's like your little one doesn't just learn from what you're saying, but it's what you're not saying that they're learning from. And those behavioral patterns and cues, they can feel when you're anxious. There's all of these different levels to it. So I think, yeah, you finding that slowness and that patience, I think that's just the gold dust there. And obviously for me, I'm not a parent myself, so I don't want anyone to feel like I'm trying to step on anyone's toes there, but this is a behavioural observation, and equally of co-parenting my first niece, I have a real good idea of how children are raised, and I think, having a tight-knit family again is all of this. But yeah, I do take my hat off to you, because I think how you manage to, follow through with all of your education, your business, your motherhood, like there's a lot of things to juggle there. So like, where are you in terms of, I kind of asked this at the beginning, but like, what are the obstacles that you're still kind of working through yourself?
Yeah, amazing question, actually. 'Cause one of them was a bit of a slump, I guess, just energetically, because it can get tiring. That's just the truth of the matter, is that when you're juggling so many hats, it does get tiring. Also, when even if you're working from a place of feminine energy, when you're high functioning in that area, it's also exhausting. And so for me, some of those obstacles have been sort of balancing my time, balancing my energy, particularly also managing my space. Like, I would say that like the house is the first thing to be a wreck, because everything else takes precedent. You didn't quite ask this, but I'm going to pop this in here anyway, which is, how am I managing that? And one thing that's been amazing recently is coming back to the practice of gratitude. And I've been doing it not in any sort of like regime, just when I remember, taking the time, writing things down. If I've gone to bed and I can't be bothered to write it down, I'll just go over it in my head. But the power of gratitude, particularly for manifestation, is insane. And what I've noticed, as I would, is that more good things have been coming in because I've been practicing my gratitude and remembering to practice it. And then it's also freed up space in my mind to remember other practices. So one thing that I'm really in love with at the moment is minimalism. And not a lot of people talk about the fact that stuff is one of the biggest blockers to your shine, actually, and the biggest blockers to your mental health and well-being. Because when you've got too much stuff, there's a lot of clutter that then transfers energy to your brain and to your mind and to your body. You don't feel comfortable in stuff either. So on a somatic level, that stuff is negatively impacting you. And I'm not saying that I'm just going to have a table and a chair and I don't have a TV, but I don't know, a table, a chair and a book in my house and nothing else. But actually the process of decluttering and following minimalism practices has massively opened up my psyche and my health and my well-being. So that, coupled with my gratitude process, has been really, really fundamental to those obstacles. And then, as I said earlier, dipping in and out of my astrology, which I absolutely love, has also helped with a bit of guidance of where I'm going.
No, I love that. And actually, that was going to be my next question. So you've already answered that. Amazing. But absolutely that. And I think I always talk about that, like tidy space, tidy mind. It very much is that. And that's why, as you all know, with the full moon, about releasing, it is about physically clearing things out. And there's a manifestation practitioner, I can't remember who it is now, but she basically talks about if you want to call something big in, you have to let go of something big too. So it's like, I always talk about the wardrobe analogy, get rid of the old clothes so you can fit it with the new ones. It definitely is that. And that's you in co-creation with the universe, right? But equally for your own mental well-being, like that's why that saying cleanliness is close to godliness. It is that kind of thing, isn't it? That like when you have got that clear space, that equally it does make that a lot easier. But with other factors, motherhood and busy lives and busy schedules, it is a state of prioritization. But equally, I think that you can manage that in a way that works in your favor. So time management, obviously, I'm sure you're an expert at. I mean, you literally said to me about your schedule, and I was like, yeah, no, you have to be that what's the word I'm talking about, like pernickety. You have to be that on it, don't you? Otherwise, I mean, I remember doing my masters, and I did it through the lockdown, and then as the lockdown was lifting, I went back to doing like my 3 to 4 jobs as well as studying, and I had to be so meticulous with my timings. And even now to this day, I still have an element of that. That's my Capricorn moon. I love it. I love the structure. But equally it works for me, and I need an element of that. And that's why for me, like, having, similar to you, a morning ritual and an evening ritual is just fundamental. Like, I literally can't focus without it. I even down to, like, if I don't drink very much at all, it's very special occasions, but if I have had a drink and I even get in that night, I will still do it, still do the practice, because I just can't let myself slip on that. And I don't know, I was battling with whether that's toxic or not, because obviously if you feel like you depend on something, then that becomes a crutch. But I don't do it for a crutch. I do it because I know what it feels like without it, and that's the compromise for me. It's like, I know that I feel so regulated and grounded once I've done my practice. Like, it doesn't matter what's happened in the day. The moment I shut my bedroom door and I start to do my rituals, I just come back to myself in a really whole feeling sensation. And that's why, even with my clients, that's one of the first things I set with them is a morning and evening routine. They're like, oh, I just want to feel more confident. I'm like, cool, so we're going to do this, isn't it? That what? I'm like, I'm telling you now. And honestly, the clients that I've had that have followed these practices, their lives are completely different now, completely different. And I think that, and it's almost like I've sowed the seeds of intention in their life. So even though it's not, obviously you don't see the flower bloom straight away, it's there and it's planted, and they'll say to me like years later, oh, that was from, you told me this, and that was that. So yeah, go on, you were going to say something.
Yeah, it's really interesting, because I was thinking there's got to be somewhere where we do something differently. We can't just be absolutely the same with everything. And I guess, and I don't want to impinge on your practice either, because I think morning and evening rituals and routines are really, really helpful. What I was thinking about is, I know for myself, in this current season, and we were talking just before the call, my son woke up at 5 a.m. this morning, and there's no rhyme or reason to when he's going to wake up. Those practices have definitely left. They're out the door. But I'm okay with that. I think some of the things that I've done that have been helpful is allow myself flexible routines, or what flexible to-do lists. So I write down everything that I need doing, and I might give myself, okay, over this week, get these things done, rather than it being, okay, today tick off all these things, next day tick off all these things, because let's face it, my life is completely unpredictable, and it's based on when my son does what he wants to do rather than when I do what I want to do. But also, I've been giving myself the space to, like I said before, kind of dip in and out of things when I need them. So was it last night or the night before, I just laid down on the floor, had my legs up on the door, and sat there for 5 minutes. My old self definitely would have been like, right, every day I need to sit down, I need to make sure that I'm elevating my legs, to do my circulation and somatic breathing and all of this. But I found that in the season that I'm in, that made things worse, because I was then going into my masculine energy to go, okay, this is how I cope. So I think, like I said to you earlier about that kind of seasonal shining moments, right now it very much looks like, for me, whatever you manage to get done is what you manage to get done, and that is absolutely fine. And that in itself is almost my ritual at the moment.
Absolutely. No, but I think that that's so spot on for where you're at. And I think equally working with my clients, it's what can work for them. So if for them they can just do like listening to like a 5-minute meditation before bed, like literally just plugging that in, listening, even if it's just down to putting their phone on the other side of the room and not scrolling at night, that is literally the tweaks that I would make for them. So I would not expect a whole thing. Like, for me, obviously it's a whole different scenario, but also I would put down to the fact that it's obviously relatable to their circumstance, but also maybe the trauma they've experienced too, like that. For me, what I've really learned, in order for me to feel safe and in my feminine, I need some form of structure, because without it, that's when I start to go into old habits, and then I get into like overachieving mode and I have to do everything. So I feel like just creating pillars for me works. But again, everything is different, isn't it? You can't give everyone the same advice, and that would be my exact thing as well with my clients. It's like, where are they at right now? What do they need right now? And what's going to help them feel that sense of achievement? Because I think for you and I, we both have such a full bag of tools that we can dip into any of them at any point. And the
Yeah.
reason I repeat the morning and evening one is because I really enjoy it, you know. But if any at any point, like when I have my own children, I know for a fact I won't be able to do that. So it's like, what can I do instead that's going to give me the same fulfillment? And that's the beauty of that, and knowing all the stuff, isn't it? Is that you've got the option there. And I guess with our clients, it's showing them what the tools look like, working with them to find the ones that work for them, and then allowing them to repeat them when it feels good for them. You know, it's that, isn't it? It's guidance. It's not doing it for them, you know.
Absolutely.
But I guess like with obviously all of us, with us speaking about, you know, the work and the process and all of these things, like how can people work with you? What's the ways that they have?
So I guess it depends who they are, in terms of the fact that I've worked with both everyday person and then therapists, if you can put it like that. But almost like I've got those two areas. So I guess if somebody is looking for therapy or coaching, the best place to go really would be my website, or drop me an email. It's probably the easiest thing. Should I say my email? I can say it.
I can put it in the notes.
Cool. So yeah, drop me an email or pop over to my website, but you can work with me one-to-one as a client. And then for therapists, I have a membership for therapists, which is a membership of clinical supervision and continuing professional development on a monthly subscription basis. And so therapists can work with me through that. I also run a network for younger counsellors and psychotherapists on Facebook. So you can always join that, because we have bi-monthly events, which are really exciting. We've got a in-person meet coming up soon. So that's another thing for therapists. And then I guess the last thing actually that I didn't think of is if you want me to run a workshop for your organization. So I've had people who've wanted to work with me, but maybe the times haven't aligned, but actually then we've worked it out that I've come into their organization and delivered a workshop. So there's a number of different ways.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think it's, you know, amazing that there's all of those possibilities. And I think you're similar to me, as in like, I've got this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, and this way. So whatever works, I'm here. I want to share. I'm ready to support you. Like, absolutely that. And I think that's the best way to be, because you're not limited then for who you can help. And I think that's the best thing ever. Yeah, no, I mean, Aisha, we could talk forever. And I think that we are going to definitely arrange like Instagram lives where we just connect again, for sure, because I think that it's so easy to keep, you know, talking to you, and I think our stories align so much, and I think there's always a path, isn't there?
Absolutely. And even down to the fact that our brand colours are the same, which was not on purpose.
Yeah, that's so funny, isn't it? We've definitely come from the same soul family, I think, for sure.
I agree.
No, I love that. And I've loved speaking to you. And I guess obviously a closing tradition I have is, what is your soul to soul message? So either for a younger version of you or someone that you feel like listening right now needs to hear.
Oh, that's a really hard question. Just for me, what comes up for me is, but what about everybody else? As I'm glad that you put in that bit about, you know, for anyone listening. I'd actually like to read something from my second book, if that's okay, because I feel like that really fits to what you've just asked. Very short, but a few words here. It says, "To you and the little bit of her inside of you, whoever you are, wherever you've been, you will always have you, and you are exactly who you are supposed to be." I wrote this book to illustrate the delicate journey of life that we will all go through, but also to give hope to those who feel constantly tripped up by the potholes in the road. You can do this. I am with you.
Oh, I love that so much. That's so beautiful. And I felt that as well. So thank you so much for sharing. And we'll pop the links to your books, to your how to work with you. All of the things will be in the show notes. So for anyone that wants to connect with you, you are going to be all there for sure. So thank you so much, Aisha, for sharing your time with me today. And yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah, right back at you. It's been an absolute pleasure.
If this episode resonated with you, please do like, follow and share with someone that you know would benefit. If you're looking to dive in deeper to becoming your most unapologetic, most authentic, shining self, please do head to my website and join my newsletter, where you'll find out about all of my upcoming events and speaking opportunities and all of the things that I have going on. And also, if you would like to work with me, please do drop me a DM on any of my socials or through my website. Love and light.